they found Balana in a damp, forgotten cave. He was a man of the earth, his eyes holding the same weary wisdom as Merlin's. Balana was not hard to convince to return with them to Camelot. The promise of a room and food was enough for the old man to begin to pack his belongings and begin to walk beside them, before Arthur slipped off his horse and helped the man up. "We need to be quick," Arthur told them both. "There may yet have been other attacks on the citadel." Glancing at Elund, he eased himself up behind her and they rode south in the direction of Camelot. Half a day from the city and an ambush came to the small party. They were Saxons, that was easy to see, and they circled the group in the small copse of trees, looking for the easy prey. But Elund was quick and Arthur was quicker, and they faced the half-dozen scouting men together, Elund translating the Saxon that the men were speaking, giving them the edge. 2 lay dead, and then a third, 3 others retreating and deciding to run in a short space of time. "Senead's men, from north of Rati," she told Arthur. "There are more heading to the Haithron. Then they have heard of Camelot's misfortune, and intend to capitalize on it," Arthur told her. "We must make haste with the Dragon Lord who had fallen." Quickly, Arthur helped the dying man onto his horse and together they rode into Camelot, not stopping until they got to the courtyard and into the center of the castle, Arthur's care with the man not stopping even when he was coughing his last on his back on the cobblestones before them. "Get Merlin," Elund commanded of Gareth, who tore off to find Arthur's servant. "Do you know this man?" Arthur asked him, when Merlin knelt beside Balana. "He is a broken bar, the last Dragon Lord," Merlin told his master. "I knew him, a very long time ago. A broken bar, my son, a broken bar." The words drifted through the air between Balana and Merlin, landing in Elund's mind too, opened as it had been by Kilgara. "He fell, protecting me," Arthur told Merlin, as Elund looked up at Merlin, seeing his world shatter, and then at Arthur, who stood over them with a look of profound, helpless regret. "He's gone," Elund whispered, her heart breaking for the friend who kept so many secrets. 88,888,888. Back at the walls of Camelot, the dragon prepared for the final strike, and that afternoon the air changed to the same fierce energy that Kilgara had evoked on the night of the festival. Arthur, believing himself the last hope, readied his spear for a suicide charge as the knights flanked him on the fields before the castle as the dragon filled the sky. "Stay back, Elund," Arthur commanded, his voice thick with finality, as he looked over the body of the woman for whom he had complicated feelings. "If I don't return, go north. Find Lancelot. I don't take orders from dead men," she snapped, her eyes damp with the bite of the air. Or so she would be determined to tell herself. "Don't you dare leave us." And there it was, the same enormous cry, the same words in her head, as she fell to her knees, the dragon keening and wailing overhead. But it was Merlin who stepped into the clearing, clapping Elund on the shoulder. As Arthur lay unconscious from the dragon's proximity, Merlin spoke the ancient tongue, standing full facing to the creature. The roar of the beast turned into a whimper, a command given by the true heir of Balana's power. Merlin was the last Dragon Lord, and he had more might and strength than ever his father had. "You stay with the son of the murderer," screamed Kilgara, in her mind. Elund, who had joined the knights, forced her hand over her ears, to little effect. Then, she watched Merlin stretch out a hand. He spoke the same words that Kilgara had spoken into the air between them, commanding, instructing, his hand a shield to the sound energy that was vibrating the air and land all around them. The great dragon screamed, and dipped in the air, flying round in a retreat. The cry of his retreating form filled anger and disbelief at the command he was compelled to obey. Kilgara took flight, banished but alive, and with him, Elund's plan to leave with him. 88,888,888. When the sun rose over the smoking ruins of the citadel, Arthur awoke to find Elund sitting beside him on the charred grass. The dragon was gone, the sky was clear, and the weight of the future felt heavier than the stones of the castle. Arthur looked at her and reached out, his fingers finding her hand. "We survived," he said, the shock of it still in his voice. "Indeed, she told him, glad he was alive, glad she could now take a step back, literally, and figuratively. My father has made many enemies after what he did, Arthur told her, the knights flanking around him. It's going to make our job a lot harder than it was before. We pledge it to you, Arthur Pendragon, Leon said, speaking for them all, for to them, Camelot was not a kingdom ruled by Arthur, but an idea headed by the prince, king in waiting. We pledge, chorused the knights, Elund included. It was at that moment, Camelot was born, of equality, and honor, and might and justice, on the plains before the castle. The king, Arthur, was now living to represent the old order, and the knights were now helping Arthur to build the new. And what reward does the Saxon-tongued guard need? Arthur asked, as they headed back to the citadel. I could not have done this without you. A new sword, she replied, her eye on Gawain, for mine was shattered while fighting the dragon. It was a good sword, he mused. Not good enough. Cymric steel, old but not good enough to stand the flame of a dragon. I'll need it to stand beside you again. Beside me? Arthur's voice filled with the familiar curious arrogance of old. Elund stopped walking and looked at him, disbelievingly. If you think the rest of this journey is going to be easy, you really are an idiot. Go, she added, before Arthur could think of a rebuttal, go to Gwen, sire. The people need to see their prince with their future queen. Elund began to walk on, to hurry to catch up with the rest of the knights. Arthur, however, stood stock still for a moment, his mouth opening in astonishment. Of course, Gwen, Merlin told him, as he walked past his lord. It's obvious to everyone. Sire, he added, with affected deference. As Arthur walked toward the cheering crowds, Elund stood in the shadows with Merlin, her eye on Gawain as he glimpsed back to Elund as they formed the honor guard. They were the keepers of secrets watching the man who would be king, knowing that the real wars had just begun.